Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Let me just start off with the Section 232 statute requires that the Secretary of Commerce consider the domestic production that is needed for projected national defense requirements. When you decided to self-initiate a Section 232 investigation into automobiles and auto parts, what were the projected national defense requirements for these products that you had identified?
Well, as you know, the investigation, Mr. Chairman, has just begun, so we do not have the detailed answers to any of those questions. What we have done, as required by Section 232, I immediately sent a notification letter to General Mattis as Secretary of Defense, asking for his inputs, just as we had under the steel and aluminum investigations. And as you're aware, in the case of steel and aluminum, General Mattis wrote back to us that he accepts the proposition of the threat to national security arising from the imports of steel and aluminum. I have no idea at this early stage what his attitude will be on the automotive sector, but it is a factor that we definitely will consider as required by the statute, and even more as required by good common sense as we consider the automotive and auto parts environment.
Okay, product-based exclusions from the steel and aluminum tariffs are available in two circumstances. When a product is not available domestically in the quality or amount needed, and when national security considerations warrant an exclusion. However, I understand that the Commerce Department is refusing to grant any exclusions from the quotas that limit the volume of steel and aluminum products that Americans may import from certain countries. What is the national security justification for refusing to grant exclusions from quotas where in the same circumstances, the same product would be excluded from tariffs?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. The President's proclamation does not authorize us to grant exclusions from quotas. There are very few countries that have quotas in any event. Those are principally the most important one of which is South Korea, and that does have a quota which is equal to 70% of the average shipments, product by product, from 2015 through 2017. In addition, Brazil and Argentina have agreed to quotas, and so those three are fundamentally the quotas that exist. We are taking into consideration the requests that have been made for exclusions based on quotas that have already been exceeded or shortly will. The problem is that a number of countries rammed in a huge amount of product prior to the President's decisions and therefore have put in much more than they had in the prior year. So there's an intellectual challenge as to whether or not to reward those countries that were trying to game the system. Nonetheless, we're giving real consideration to requesting the President to consider whether the similar exclusion should be granted to those countries subject to quota as opposed to the ones we are granting to those countries that are subject to tariff rates.
The process that the Commerce Department is administering for businesses to request product-based exclusions from the steel and aluminum tariffs has had, in my opinion, many serious flaws, and problems continue to surface. For instance, some subject to objections that, in their view, contain inaccurate, incomplete, or misleading claims, and they would like to rebut those claims. However, I understand that the Commerce Department has provided no formal channel for submitting rebuttals on regulations .gov, where all of the requests and objections must be filed. Will the Commerce Department accept rebuttal comments on objections? And if so, will petitioners be able to submit their rebuttals through the regulations.gov website?
I'd like to put up chart number 1, which will describe to you some statistics on the Section 232 processing. I hope it's large enough type that can be viewed, but on the off chance that your vision is as bad as mine, I'll also read you the information. By type of submission, in case of steel, we have received 20,003 exclusion requests, and in the case of aluminum, 2,503, totaling 22,506. Against those, there have been objections filed in the case of 3,939 items in steel and 98 items in aluminum, for a total of 4,037 objections to the filing. In terms of comments, we have received during the comment period 383 comments on steel, 51 comments on aluminum, for a total of 434. So the total submissions in the case of steel are 24,325. In the case of aluminum, 2,652, for a grand total of 26,977. Of the exclusion requests, we have posted 8,168 in the case of steel. Of those, we have rejected 2,513. The rejections are in addition to the ones posted. We have pending 9,310 for a total of 20,003. In the case of aluminum, we've posted 1,828. We've rejected 420. We have pending 253 for a total of 2,503. That comes to the same total, 22,506 of exclusion requests. In terms of objections, we've posted 1,765 in the case of steel, 52 in the case of aluminum, a total 1,817. We've rejected 230 in the case of steel, 5 in the case of aluminum, total 235. We have pending 1,944 in the case of steel, 41 in the case of aluminum, total 1,985. So the grand totals, there were 3,939 objections filed in steel and 98 in aluminum, for a total of 4,037. The timing is in chart 2. These are the steel submissions by week. And you can see, or will be able to see in a moment, that there was a big peak realized on the week of the 14th of May of this year. In that single week, we received 3,175 requests. Those are the large blue bars that you see on the chart. Those have now tapered off quite a bit. In the exclusion requests received in the week ended 6/11 this year are only 1,481. In terms of the ones posted, those are the gray bars, and you can see that's starting to go down as well because we're eating through the backlog. The orange bars are the objections filed, and you'll see that bar is growing very rapidly. As the exclusion requests have become a little bit seasoned, the objections come in. And then finally, the yellow, very small bars are the objection filings posted. So we're pretty well catching up with the backlog that was created. A similar pattern in aluminum in Chart 3. In the case of aluminum, the request for exclusion peaked in the week ended the 7th of May at 769 that week, and has gone down to 210 in the most recent week. Of exclusion requests posted, that's again the gray bar, and you can see how that's going up. We managed to post in the week of June 4th, 602. The orange bar again is objection filings, and the yellow bar, the very, very small one, is objection filings posted. So there is no huge backlog because, as you know, there was a mandatory objection period prior to which we could not grant anything. So you will start seeing more or less every single day batches of exclusions being acted upon. Based on what we've seen so far, though, there is a high probability that relatively few of those will be granted because many of them have no substance and or have some potential substance but have objections that are well-grounded posted against them. So I hope that gives you a bit of a feel for both the magnitude of the chore in terms of the number of requests received and the fact that we are making very good progress in dealing with them. It's also important to note that under the President's proclamation, whatever the date when an exclusion request is granted, it's granted retroactive to the date when that objection was posted. So even if it takes a few days longer for people to be granted an exclusion, they really won't suffer meaningful economic harm because it will be made retroactive. Whatever tariffs they've paid will be refunded to them quite promptly. I hope that helps to clarify that part of your question, sir.
Senator Wyden,